Good morning. I'm Peggy Kelly, and this is Good Morning Santa Paula. It's Thursday, July 16th, and I have as our guest today Santa Paula Mayor Rick Araiza. So, hi, Rick, how are you doing?
I am doing very well, Peggy. Thank you.
Yes, you guys had a very interesting council meeting last evening, and I know that one of the subjects that was brought up is very important to the community, considering what's been happening is fireworks. What action did the council take on fireworks?
Well, yesterday we passed the first reading of an ordinance in which we hope to get more teeth into the enforcement of illegal fireworks, and we've made everything illegal, whether it's safe and sane or the bottle rockets and rockets. I know the months before the 4th and on through the 4th, we had so many calls for service for illegal fireworks. So we did some research and saw that the difficulty with enforcing it is we had to catch people red-handed, so to speak. So now we've enacted an ordinance in which a host person is going to be responsible, and we will no longer simply need to find who actually did it. If it's being fired off in somebody's property, then that person is responsible and will be fined, and can up to $1,000 multiple times, and leads to a misdemeanor. So we're hoping
lead to jail time too, correct?
Exactly. So we're hoping that this is just the first step. Obviously, it's going to be another year before the height comes in again, but we are working towards not waiting to the very end. We wanted to get this thing started. So that was a big step yesterday. And we had many calls from people. We had dogs that had died from it, from being running, trying to get away and getting hit by a car. So we actually have a big group of people hoping and helping. So we are hoping that next year we will be able to enforce and do a lot more. For those of you who don't know, PD was out there and they were undercover, and they did confiscate quite a few illegal fireworks. They were brought in from China. Most of them were Chinese fireworks, and there were several arrests for that. But those were in an undercover sting operation that occurred.
Absolutely.
I can't give any details.
No,
I can't give details because it's still ongoing.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I think what people don't understand, the people that are near where the fireworks have been going off certainly understand, but they're not things that are on the ground. They're not things like that. What we've been experiencing are rockets and mortar type shells, M80s, just all sorts of the most dangerous and annoying and dangerous, period. I mean, and you're the former fire chief for Santa Paula, and you understand the danger. So it was so out of hand this year, which I might add, it was out of hand everywhere. Santa Paula wasn't the lone ranger when it came to,
I just finished with a meeting that encompassed council members from other towns, and you're correct. It was all over Ventura County. We weren't the only ones. Oxnard had a tremendous amount of fireworks. Ventura also. I mean, they both parties that I was speaking to said that it's just such an unusual year, and that people were bottled up inside, and so to speak, they used bottle rockets to get some of that anxiety out. And unfortunately, it's illegal. It does damage to dogs. I understand we had one serious injury where one exploded in somebody's hand. So I know there was an injury. Those are things, not to mention the fires that has started. If you also saw the report yesterday, our fires in Santa Paula are up. And you can't just say it's homeless. I mean, it could have been bottle rockets, could have been other things. And our report from our county fire indicated that we are one of the highest for fires per capita in Ventura County.
I know. And you're being the former fire chief, that's something new. That's something new this year, the last year. So I don't know exactly what what's that? I'm gonna have to watch his presentation again, but I was listening to that last night, so.
Yeah, and
Now,
of course, medical calls are still the paramount is what we go to, and that was one of the benefits of going to county. And we now have paramedics, and 74% of the calls are paramedics. So
yes,
that was
absolutely.
something we could never afford in the past.
Mhm. And I know too that the fire department was also out with the police department, at least cruising neighborhoods during these calls for fireworks and everything. They were keeping an eye out. So there were a lot of eyes out there. Plus they had a couple of citizen groups that got together and started following them themselves. And I think some of those resulted in maybe some arrests. But it's just that people have had it with that.
Right.
It's too
And some of
frustrating.
the calls that I'm getting are actually asking for a report on how many calls we went on. If you go to the website, city website, I think PD did do a report, and
Yes.
I will make sure you can look at the report as to how many actually calls we got, where there were. I think the activities are even placed, like yesterday, the fire department had a presentation of where all our calls are coming from and the volumes of where they're coming from. If you look at that presentation, you can see all the different calls throughout the city.
Absolutely. And they also, just to shift the subject a little bit, they also talked about responses to possible COVID-19 cases,
Yes.
medical responses.
Yeah. One of the questions I failed to ask, and I should have asked them, is the cost of the new protective equipment that they now have to go to the COVID calls. I mean, he did mention that they had to purchase new masks. So being in the fire service for 32 years, it amazes me that my first year you're handed a little bag, and that was the extent of our equipment. By the time I retired, it was about 120 pounds worth of equipment. Every individual mask, individual tanks, everything. So now they've just added another equipment piece in the COVID mask that you need to wear when you go to a COVID call. So
Yes.
it's just extension of what the dynamics of being a firefighter is, and just the dangerous activity that you go to. It's just,
Yes. Because you don't know, I mean,
you
you
don't
really
know.
don't
When I
know.
first started, we would go into structures sometimes without breathing apparatus, and and then when I was the young guy coming in wearing the breathing apparatus, and the older guys are saying, "Oh, you're just a sissy. You need to suck up some smoke." And we said, "No, the new breed is you don't suck up that smoke." And I think we finally learned that, yeah, you don't suck up that smoke.
Right. Right. Boy, well, it keeps evolving, that's for sure. Now, since we're on the subject of COVID, I know that, we're all aware, and you're also aware, not only as the mayor, but as a business person, that the rules have been tightened again by Governor Newsom. And I know there was some discussion at the council meeting about that last night also. And let me ask you, just lead off. Let's lead off with hair salons, because I know that was brought up at the meeting itself.
Yes, it took us by surprise, as our city manager indicated, when the governor immediately shut down all indoor activity. So it wasn't like it was coming in a few days. He did it immediately.
Mhm.
So it left the enforcement with the cities, and we reached out to county health and the health department and the director, because it did affect. We had opened up for hair salons. Everybody liked to go get their pedicures, manicures, hair
Sure.
done. And so some of them said, "Can we move it outside and continue?" We weren't sure. At first, they told us it'd be the city that made that determination. Then when they did further research, they found out that the health and safety code specifically indicated that those types of activities needed to be indoors. They couldn't be
Right.
outside.
So
So
it's actually state law that governing
that
that type of business.
exactly. So unfortunately, we had to let people know that they could not move outside, and those activities had to be shut down, which is devastating for some of these people that had just opened up and
I
just
know.
starting to get back their business. As you said, I'm a business. My family has a business also, and we went through the same thing. We went to indoor, and we were finally getting back to not normal, but what COVID normal was, and paying some bills without having to take it out of our pockets. And then we had to shut down indoors and go outdoors with added
Right.
expenses. So moving outdoors has the added expenses. We are going to try and help the downtown merchants by seeing if we can give them more space in front of their restaurants
Mhm.
to have them put some outdoor dining. My family is fortunate in that we have a parking lot that we were able to move a tent into, um, and
Plus
have
you
some
have
outdoor
patio.
dining.
Yeah, you already have
But
patio. So it's just
yeah,
an ex-
but in any event, it's still, people are not coming out. It's just it's hit and miss sometimes, and you still got to have your employees, which is fine because we want them working. We just don't want to have to put out of our pocket, and that's where we are now. We're about at 30% of what we were at prior to COVID. So at least
Mhm.
we're paying some bills.
Yes. Well, and look at the ones that have, I know that they've made some accommodations for places. Rabelais had a patio, but they've been allowed to expand that onto the sidewalk. The Draft had a very small seating area, but now they put up tables out there. So it's good that the city is working with these various restaurants and businesses to help them stay in business. And it's just a real challenge for all of us. It
You know,
really, it
well, in
really,
Santa Paula, it isn't like we have a lot of restaurants in Santa Paula. I mean,
yes.
we have a few, so you could, like I said, like you just mentioned, you can mention them on one hand, how many actually have some outdoor seating. Otherwise, everything's to go,
Yeah.
fast food and that type of thing. So it is devastating to the cities of Santa Paula and their citizens that we have to drive out of town if you want to try and get an outside dining area other than 4 or 5
Mhm.
restaurants.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I think there's also maybe some confusion about, like, let's say the antique stores and the 99-cent stores, which are always a lot of fun, and things like that. As long as they open up to the outside, they, in other words, they're not in the mall. Our shops are not in the mall.
Right.
They open up to the outside, which is, a guideline. And so people, but as long as people, they maintain social distancing inside and outside, and they can only let in a few customers at a time, but they're remaining open, aren't they?
That is correct. And they're still using essential businesses to stay open.
Oh,
So
yeah.
those are the hardware stores, the food sales, that type of thing, grocery sales. So you're correct. In the other situations, as long as they have some ventilation, there's not just cramped up and the doors closed. I think we're learning a little more about COVID. So we're learning a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, every day, I think science is hopefully catching up to it.
Mhm.
I understand there's some hope for some kind of vaccine, but until we get that, it sure doesn't look like we're going to be opening up anytime soon.
Yes, that's very true. And I know that, it's, I guess the governor's going to make a decision. I don't know if it's today or tomorrow about public schools, about schools, period. I guess whether or not they're going to be allowed to open up, to reopen for the
Right.
fall semester. So that still remains to be seen. So needless to say, this has been devastating. As I've said before, I've always compared it to having a tremendous earthquake without any physical damage, but the emotional damage and the economic damage and all of that's the same. It's like, everything was knocked down in a big shake, and but there's everything looks fine, but it's tough. It's really
Hmm.
tough. But we'll make it. We're as tough as it is. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
Gonna hang
So
in there.
yeah, we're
You got to
hanging in
hang
there.
in there.
That's all we can do. We can beat it, but
Yeah.
everybody has to be careful.
Yeah.
Okay,
Everybody needs to wear
anything
those
I,
masks. The
yeah,
masks are so important.
yes,
Can't emphasize enough. Wear those masks.
yep, and hand washing and social distancing. But you're right about the masks, and I've been very, very proud. Now, I have had about the fact that businesses have been so attentive to the mask wearing. I have had some calls though, just today. Where would people, do they contact City Hall if there's non-compliance in business? Who would they contact?
I
I know the county has a hotline.
The county has the hotline. I know in yesterday's city leaders meeting, county also has people that are going out looking at different businesses to make sure that they're enforcing the mask rule. So they have undercover people. So just to let everybody know, that was discussed yesterday, that it's getting serious, that we have to try and enforce the mask rule. Obviously, you can take your mask off when you're eating at a dining location, but
Sure.
to get in and get into the patio area, at least wear the mask. And then when you have to eat, then you can take it down. So
Sure.
I,
Absolutely.
at this point, it's just become a habit. I just took mine off for this interview, but it's
I saw
right
that.
here.
Uh-huh.
And it's part of my attire every morning.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, we'll have to get you. What do you have any? Does yours have a City of Santa Paula logo on it?
I do have one, and it was one
Uh-huh.
of the first ones. My wife sewed it, and it actually had the oil museum on the front.
Oh my
I don't know where
God.
she got that, but I have to have her put some elastic. I like the elastic. The one she made me, it was one of the first ones, and used to tie it. That was when
Oh,
elastic was in short supply. And
oh
so
yeah.
now that we can get it, I'm going to have her put
Mhm.
that elastic on that one because I really liked it.
Yeah. Well, everybody who's a public official, a public, everybody should set an example for others. And but like I said, I imagine I'll refer people to the county hotline and tell them that that's if they see any problem and let it go from there because. For the most part, people are being so great about wearing their masks and maintaining social distancing, and it's really makes you proud that everybody appreciates everyone else's space. So anyway, any last thought you have, Rick, that you'd like to share with us, or anything you think we should know, or better yet, not know that you'd like to share?
Well, we're coming into the summer months, and everybody hopefully uh, you're going to be practicing all that social distancing
Yeah.
and wearing the mask, and hopefully we get through this summer, and we'll see what schools are going to do. So
Yes.
just listen up for the updates on the COVID, and we'll try and meet again and talk about it.
Okay, well, that's great. And thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. Once again, I'm Peggy Kelly. This is Good Morning Santa Paula. If you'd like to watch it online, it will be on Cities Channel 10. It's also on kadytv.net. When you visit the online, you can go ahead and just click subscribe, and that's great. I appreciate once again, thank Mayor Rick Araiza for stopping in and letting us know what's happening in Santa Paula. Everybody have a safe weekend and stay well. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Peggy. Have a
Bye
good
bye,
week.
Rick. Thank you.